Thanks so much for coming today. I'm Kristan Sievers-Coffer from the Department of Education. I'm in special department, and I also have...
I'm Karen Stein. I'm with the Office of Student Assessment, and I work with special programs. We're using the microphones, not because it's a big group, but because they need to hear us on the video.
So we thought we'd start with testing windows. I'm sure most of you know about these since we're in the middle of testing right now. But you can find it on the department website, and as soon as there is a change, it gets changed immediately. And so, as you knew, this year some of the windows changed, and so they changed it that day. So it is always updated.
So for anybody that has students that are using in iStep, we did have to go to scripts this year. We had too many people that were just reading out of the examiner's manuals. Our office gets a lot of, not a lot, but when there's a testing irregularity, they come to us. And so when we review these kind of things, last year we got a lot of testing irregularities, and a lot of them are on the fact that somebody read what they shouldn't have read because they were reading through the examiner's manual and through the student book. So this year we developed scripts, and they were ordered, and they're going to be used again for part 2. We just did open a window for people who, because there was some misunderstandings about, I'll put it like that way, about the scripts for part 1. So we have reopened it to your corporation test coordinators to order for part 2 for those students who are taking it paper pencil. So if you're not sure if they're aware of who should be getting them, and they are doing it on a basis of 1 for every 5 students because most of them are done in small group.
But it's always the corporation test coordinator that contacts Karen, not the buildings, not the special ed director. It's always that corporation person.
Something new that was something new also is the reference sheets. So now reference sheets are individual. So for grades 4 through 8, yeah, I had to make sure. I know it wasn't 3. It is an individual sheet. Now, some people have asked, called and said, well, we really want to use the one-pager from last year. You cannot use that because it is not specific to what is being tested this year. So the students need to have the new reference sheet. Students can have a paper copy of it. The big difference this year is you cannot tell them when they need to use it, and that in the assessment will not tell the students when they need to use the reference sheet. It is available to them online. They can open it up, or if you give them a paper form, they can have it, but you just cannot tell them when they need to use it. And that is due to Math Process Standard 5, where the students are supposed to use the tools that are available to them.
So hopefully it's something that teachers are using all year long. It's not just here, it's iStep, we're going to lay this paper in front of you, that you're always using it. So some of the tools that iStep has that are built in are the option eliminator. So if a student is going through and they know that that's not the one they want, they could mark that so they help them remember. Highlighting different keywords as they're reading through a passage, erasing something they highlighted, realized, oh, they didn't want that, they could erase that. They could mark things for later. The blocking ruler, where you can block as you read along. So if the text is just too much, it helps them keep track of where they are when they're reading. But that is for anybody. Anybody can use those.
Not too long ago, we put on the website and accommodations, kind of a PowerPoint and a recording. And the reason we did that, and maybe it's me being where I am, and I'm not sure what everybody does at the school level, but I want to make sure that everybody understood what tools were available, so they're not just seeing them for the first time and see the visual of what they look like. So these are the tools that are available for all students. These are the same tools that were available last year. The blocking ruler was new last year, and it does kind of scope so the student can see just a particular part of the page. And again, these are for all students.
And assessments in general are going more towards these universal design for learning types of tools, and they're built in.
And we did change last year. These are different size rulers from last year, so just to let you know. And I just put on a picture of what the calculator looks like from iStep. For those students who need color and font changes, this is what it looks like, and here are the kind of colors you can do. So it goes from white to black to the colors in between. And if I'm not mistaken, we have taken that out because we did not have this for part 2. So let me tell you right now, I'm going to pull that off because that is one that is not. It is just the dark and white, the contrast. So we put this together, and I did not update that. I apologize. It was your fault.
It was.
Just to let you know also on this, they always have this on here, and we get questions every year about oh, the test, if students got time and a half or double time, the tests are not timed online. The teacher, the proctor, or the teacher has to start the time, and she tells everybody when they're done. So it's not something where the computer's going to kick you off at a certain amount of time. And this is just what the screen reader looks like for the students, so they can see this is for iStep. They can change the volume, and they can change the speed of the reader.
So one of the things that's new this year, we've got college and career ready assessments. And we strongly, strongly suggest that you, or hopefully that people have looked at them ahead of time or are looking at them now. On the website, there's an exam for part 2. Sorry, yeah, that's right. For part 2, so the multiple choice. If you go online, there's a video explains for each language arts and math, and then you can do practice questions. So I did it with my 5th grader, and when I mentioned the tools earlier, it was nice because I could tell her this is what the blocking ruler is, and this is how you use it. And it's a little different because the one that I did with her, there was a story on one side, but you still had to kind of scroll to get to that story. And then there was another scroll on the side. So the story's over here, and I'm scrolling to read the whole story, and then you have to scroll for the whole page. So there's 2 different types of scrolling. So just so that she was aware of all the things that are happening on the screen, and then whether you click and go to the next if you go to the next question or the next screen, and let's say you wanted to go back, there were numbers at the bottom, so you could click there, or you could click the back button, and just to kind of practice through some of that, because I'm sure once you're in the testing situation, it might be a little stressful for a kid, like, oh, what if I press the wrong thing? Is it going to mess up my test? But then you don't want them to not be able to go back and redo things if they felt like they needed to look at them again. So to me, I thought it was useful to practice it with my own child at home too, and so this definitely can go out to parents as well. It's on our website. It's public for everybody. And so there are some accommodations, again, that are on that one as well. You could have the screen reader, the high contrast, the large font if you would need it. The practice ones are grouped together, so 3, 4, or 5, 6. So it could be a little higher, a little lower, but at least it was something that you could have out there for practicing. And then an example picture.
So here's a large font. So for those students who get large print, did you say that?
No, sorry.
Okay, if they do normally large print and you ask or order a large print, you might want to see if your visually impaired students would rather have it on take it online. You can practice this one, but it is 18 points, so it's the same size as a large print book would be. Again, I said the high contrast. This is what we have that's available for part 2. So it will be black and white or white on black. And you'll notice this is where we call, this is kind of those tech-enhanced answers where you can,
oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, that just reminded me. So this is where you're double scrolling. So you're scrolling here to get to the whole essay, and then you can scroll here to get to more questions, and then at the bottom it tells you to go on. And I did forget to mention that when I did it with her, we read one story, answered some questions. We did another story about a similar topic, answered questions. Went to the third one, read some stuff, and then they said, now based on the last 2 stories, what do you think? And so if you needed to go back, it's a lot of back and forth, and again, finding answers in the text. And I don't know if every single one of them had multiple answers, so it wasn't just the one final of the one that we practiced. So some of those things are a little different than in the past.
And just to let you know, since she did it with her children, when it is, they're on the practice, that's the reason we are doing the practice is the tech enhanced. So you are seeing mostly tech enhanced on here. On the test, there are very few. They were only used when it was appropriate. It was not that we just wanted to put tech enhanced just to have tech enhanced answers. So some of those tech enhancements are that there might be multiple right answers, or another. Oh, I thought I had the other one in here. And on here, yes. So here is where the student is going to pick which one is the 1/8, and they'll fill in which one is 1/8, and then they'll also be doing 1/6. So they'll be doing the 1/6 here. So this is 2 questions on the same item.
So for samplers for iStep, traditionally what you're used to seeing, teachers can go here. I'm sure many, if not all of them, already do that and practice with their classes ahead of time, so they have an idea of what the page looks like, the complexity of the questions. Sometimes you have a first part to it, which leads you to a second section as well that all goes together, and so it's strongly recommended that teachers and parents, again, can go in, print these things, practice at home too. So let everybody know that it's public for anyone to see.
And we want to make sure that this is for Gen Ed, Special Ed, for any student that's taking I-STEP. So we don't want it to be just the Gen Ed thing or a Special Ed thing. It is for all students. So all students should be having, know about this information. We want to make sure, because our departments really do work hard on getting information out. We just don't know how many people are, because we don't have those hits and things like that, so we don't really know. And then we'll get those questions at the end, well, we didn't know about this. So we're trying to really make sure that everybody gets the information they need. Again, it seems late right now, but this has been on the website. We're just going over it right now, but it has been on the website, especially this kind of information has been on there since last fall.
All right, for ECAs, here are the dates for those. Again, they're always online and updated all the time.
And just to go over ECAs, you know that all is changing, because we are going to have 9-10 next year. There is the college and career ready portion of the ECA. I wasn't going to go into a lot of that right now because I'm really not as familiar with that. So if you have any questions, if you go to the DOE website, /assessment, Adam Mastrucci is our ECA specialist, and he can give you more information. And more information will be coming out, because we've got the younger kids taking ECAs, and then again, we're going to have this component. We have to have one of those transition times where we have kids that already took the ECA and the ones that want graduation. So there's a lot of different scenarios. Yes, there are ECAs this year. Yes, for 10th graders, and then students. We're kind of saying, I believe that they're trying to say for students that are younger, they probably shouldn't be taking it, even if they've taken the course right now. They might want to wait. Right, because it's going to be changing, so for them to take it will be fine, but they're still going to have to take something later. So again, there's a lot of information coming out. We're trying to get everything out as soon as we can, but that is one of those just gray areas to me, and it's very specific on what grade the student is in and what they should be doing.
The phasing in and phasing out,
right.
And
because right now they're taking
accountability and everything.
Anyway, because the students probably wouldn't have passed I-STEP.
So,
So it's kind of like they're in a bucket, and then, if you have like 1.5%, and then you have 5%, but of course then there's if it's because you have like a school in your corporation, you can also ask for kind of a appeal why you went over your 1% or whatever. So you can do those kind of things, but it's really,
what's most appropriate for the student.
We wish we didn't have to have that conversation. We wish there was a test for everybody, and there was everybody passed, but we don't live in that world yet.
Other states are the same.
We're all in the same boat.
With the 2%, when that went away, we had a meeting with a bunch of other states, and it's unfortunate that it ended up going that way.
And hopefully, as they change accountability, when we start doing a growth model, we're at a point where it is chaotic this year. It is not easy for anybody. I can tell you, our office is no easier than, we're having the same kind of issues. I know yours are very different than ours, but we're trying to fight the same battles you are, but we have guidelines and things that we can do. But getting back to the assessment, so now we are starting, like I said, we did have some teachers helping with bias and sensitivity, item content. That was something we never did with iStar because it was a teacher rated. Now, Indiana teachers will be more involved in this. They were involved before, but they were kind of our teachers that were from the community of practices or had been involved with Project Success, because we knew they were getting into the assessment and the tools that we had in curriculum. So, but now this year, so we will be, for all tests, they are going to be asking we're going to be doing new bias and sensitivity, new items and things like that. So if you're interested in for ISTEP, for the NCSIC, for the ECAs, a letter going to be out that you're going to be nominated by your superintendents or principals or whatever. So if you're interested in something like that, make sure they're aware that you want to do that. Or if you have teachers,
test coordinator would be
I
the
think
person.
It's more principals or superintendents.
Oh, okay.
So just if you have teachers you really want to be involved, or if you want to be involved, make sure that you get your name in. And you can go ahead and just email ISTEP right now and ask them, when it comes, let me know. And they can at least let you know, but that should be going out pretty soon, like in the next month or so, saying we will be needing teachers for all of our assessments this summer to do some of the bias and sensitivity and the item reviews.
So the English learner test, WIDA, it's different this year, the WIDA assessment, and there's the windows for that.
Yes, and that just passed, so WIDA closed the end of February. Yes. And so now another new thing with the WIDA was that we not only assess all students who are EL students, but we also make sure that EL students with disabilities are also assessed. We did
Even
not assess
significant cognitive disabilities. Which, sorry, I know.
I usually interrupt her. So the students with significant cognitive disabilities also had to be assessed because we want to make sure that we are assessing for their making sure it's not an EL a language issue versus a cognitive issue. So that was something new for teachers, and we're going to be working again. That's going to be an online assessment for next year. It was paper this year. Not all students will be taken online. Of course, we always have those students that can't. So you'll be able to get paper forms for that.
Accuplacer, there's the dates for those, for high school, for college readiness.
And you really want to, if you want to know information about Accuplacer, the students that did not pass the
ECAs.
Yeah, they have not passed ECAs, and they had the PSATs, or they got a certain score on PSATs. Those are the only students that had to take Accuplacer.
Because when some students are going to college, they had to take too many remedial courses, and so they wanted to have this test for high school to say they're not quite ready, so let's try and beef up, do some more in high school before they get to college so that they can go straight into the normal college classes and not need the remedial work. Which hopefully would save you money as a student.
Yes. Yes, it is College Board. Yeah, Accuplacer is what they use in. They go by our accommodations. So like if it's, but the thing is with Accuplacer, the whole ELA test is reading comprehension, so it can't be read to any students. As far as the math, you could either get a script for math, or you could have used, they had 3 different kinds of screen readers you could use for that. So as we've moved forward, at this point, Accuplacer did get the bid for that. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that, but we are going to work better with them on the accommodation piece of it. It was kind of one of those legislations that we got kind of pushed, and we had to do it, and they were using an off-the-shelf test, and we had to kind of figure out how we were going to work with it. So. And the reason it's called a Part 2 is because the Accuplacer shuts down at a certain time of the year. So we had to do Part 1, Part 2, because we were right in the middle. That's when we picked our window. So, yes, there is a Part 2.
So in the fall, in October, our Office of Special Education, we offered some virtual PD. The standards were new, and then to let you know about all the resources that we have out there for standards for assessments for instruction. So some of our EARNs, again, our Indiana Resource Network, they did some presentations on differentiation, accessible educational materials, inclusive practices, which the IEP Resource Center did that one, and co-teaching for us. We had people from the DOE. Karen did some segments on accommodation and what's the other one? Maybe just assessments in general. And then we also had like an ELA person, a math person, and it was really, I think, great because then once we recorded it, we chunked it out so you don't have to listen to the whole like 4 hours or however long it was. You could listen to the segment that you needed information on, but each of them had that special ed kind of twist on it, or you could listen to some tips that they have for teaching throughout the year and things to do with kids. So it's on our website and you can listen to it at any time. So then accommodations. This topic comes up quite a lot about which accommodations can be used, and then we're always thinking which ones are the most appropriate as well. So we talked about the read aloud so far, but if you go to the assessment website there,
the biggest thing we want is, there's where the assessment window is, so that was back here. But we do have, everybody has accommodations that, all students with IEPs, you do think about the accommodations they need for day to day. They need day in and day out. But there are only certain ones that can be used during the test window. So every year we update the program manual, and it's on the Office of Student Assessment. And we put the program manual in, and we put it in sections or in chapters and then in appendices. So Appendix C is the accessibility and accommodations guidance. Every teacher should understand and be aware of this accommodation, this appendix, because this is the one that tells you what you can and cannot use on the ISTEP test or the ECAs, or like even for WIDA, there's different things for EL students. So we really need to, there are a lot of accommodations, or there are accommodations that are great for students to use on a day-to-day basis, but we need to make sure that students do not get used to accommodation that they will not be able to get on the test, and then they get into the testing situation, and it's not a good situation. Also,
it's always a good reference to check that, and then I thought we had chapter 10. I guess not. Sorry.
That is
If you could do that, well, over here we had the other one. A lot of people email Karen, and she's a wonderful woman, but she's only one person for the whole state. So if you can check that, check with your corporation test coordinator, do as many things locally that you can online first before you come to Karen, that would be very helpful.
And we do work with the IIP to make sure that our accommodations are the only ones that can be selected during the IEP process. And this is just a page, what the Accommodations C page looks like. I was just talking to Kristan today, and I think I'm going to pull this out. This just means that when the students are taking the test, there's a student information questionnaire page, and it says, does the student have an IEP 504? Do they get accommodations? If they get these accommodations, you put yes. If they get those, you wouldn't mark that for that group. So we're probably going to take that out of here because that's more for, well, I guess teachers use that too. And then this was just more, we have the chart, and then we have more information about each one of the assessments, accommodations. And then there is a section for allowable accommodations for students who are EL. So those are different from, this is not the students that are special ed and EL. They would go in the first bucket with the special education accommodations. These are the students who are levels at this time, levels 1 through 4 based on lost links. RETA will have a different scoring system, so we will be changing that.
So we've worked with a group of educators across the state to make this resource guide, this toolkit about accommodations and assessments, and we are always revising it. So as you see, it's been revised 3 times, and we're working on it again. ICAs, which is a Council of Special Ed Administrators across the state, we have someone from each region helping and working on this with us. And so that shows you who's from your area. We have one more from the central area that we'll have to add, but we've also tried to get other stakeholders. So InSource is our parent advocacy group. Patents is here also, Assistive Technology, one of our EARNs, ARC of Indiana, again involving parents, effective evaluations, and here also who's hosting the IEP Resource Center. So all together we're working to create this toolkit.
And it will be updated this summer.
Yeah,
So
yes.
we'll have a new, and it's not going to be changing a lot. It's more going to be adding those things that we feel are missing from it. If accommodations are changing, like when we first put it out, we had information about IMAS. We had to pull that out because we don't have IMAS anymore. So it was time with all the assessments changing and adding the college and career ready. We needed to update it, so it will be updated by this summer.
And kind of trying to think in the eyes of parents too. Do we make a document more for educators and then one for parents as well, so they understand what the different accommodations mean, what the different assessments mean when you're thinking through how you're using it or not, to help them be more informed as well.
So this is just talking about accommodations. I know you all know this because you're in the field, but you have to make sure that you cross over what can be used in the classroom assessment, instruction, and then classroom assessments, and then where is that mark where you can only use them for standardized. So I kind of already went over that. And so we don't know if many people really think about after the assessment is done. You're just happy it's done probably. And did the student really use all the accommodations that are on there? Do they need all of that? We heard some kids say, I don't want the test read to me, but we're just so worried that they're going to do the best they can. So which is the way to go? What's the best for the student? And so if you afterwards, and notice on this page it says the student's name, so maybe let them do it separately. You think about it, parents think about it, and just have it in your back pocket for your next case conference committee meeting. Because we want to make sure that we are always looking at students' accommodations, which ones they need this year, not what they needed last year. Oh yeah, we need to continue to do that. Those need to be focused, they need to be changed. It's just like an RTI process where you're looking at things, you're seeing what works, and then you're trying to pull things out that the student doesn't need. Because when they leave high school, you don't want them being used to a lot of accommodations that don't really happen in the real world. So that's kind of more we're talking about promoting self-advocacy. This can be, we're talking about in this framework is about accommodations, but just self-advocacy for students to make sure that they, especially by the time they get into high school, are more, know what they need to have, are asking for it. Again, I said earlier the thing about test irregularities. The biggest thing that I get, because I have to do the accommodations piece, is that a student didn't get an accommodation. They walked into the classroom, they knew they were supposed to get something, it was a different person that was testing them, They left and they said, I didn't get my accommodation. Now the school has to go ahead and send something to me and say, but the student did tell somebody they didn't get it. A lot of times the student will say something while they're in the testing situation. So they really need to make sure, of course it's the school's responsibility to make sure that everybody knows that when a teacher, whoever the test administrator is, that they know what accommodations students need. It's just, it's sad
to
when,
have
we don't,
students know too.
Yeah, and we never want to invalidate a test for that, because a lot of times, I will always say you need to talk to the parent, and if the parent and the child are very upset, because when you invalidate a test, it's just you get no score. But a lot of times without the accommodation, the students still did okay, and at least you'll get scores back. So it's more to do a test of regularity.
And again, if you want to go walk through with the student and have them fill out the paper, this is what I use the most, this is what I like, this helps me learn. Just another form that's in this toolkit if you'd like to use that tool. There's Chapter 10.
So Chapter 10, this is where, and not probably for, these things come out. My big thing on what happens, this is about who can be a test examiner. This is more the information about testing policies, administration, and security of the test. But this also includes what happens if a student broke their arm, what happens if, how do you transcribe, and things like that. So this is my two chapters are Chapter 10 and Appendix C. Those are the two that I always refer to when people call me. And most of it's already here, and they probably could have found it if they knew where it was, so that's why I'm promoting them.
Yeah, try and look online first if you can, so.
It's already, as far as the letters went out to the contractors, and that's what she was saying is on the government site, you can see who the vendors are. I think that went through.
I can show you
Ritz,
if you want.
Or did it not go through out to the?
It's on public website. So.
But did she send something out or not?
She had posted something about the cost of all the assessments in general.
Okay.
But
yeah, you can get to it, and it shows you which ones are the vendors.
You can see their actual. We had binders of information, so you can look at all the stuff that we saw and download all of that. Even if you just start with the letters, probably the best way to start with, and then you can kind of see how, like I mentioned, the 100 points, how it's broken down, and of the 3, we happen to have 3 vendors that applied for the alternate, and how many points each got.
But the big thing is about even what vendors we use. For the most part, Indiana has access or owns the items, so even like with iStep, if it's a different vendor, it still will look a lot like it does right now. With the alternate assessment, we'll probably be going to call it back to iStar, just because it's Indiana's standard tool for alternate reporting. That's what it's going to be. So we'll probably change the name back to that, but it'll be an online system where the teachers and the students have to interact and go through the assessment. Go through the process of doing it more like the other tests, where it's going to be a corporation test coordinator will be making sure the students are in and things like that. The training will be online and like that. Go ahead. The consortium itself is done this summer. There are like 7 or 8 states who can continue to be and they'll probably call it something different, kind of like Park and Smarter Balance. I mean, they still have states that continued with it. Indiana is not one that can do that because number 1, we can't be in a consortium. Number 2, we test grade 10 and everybody else tests grade 11. So as far as the NICSIC, but with Amy Howie and the project success and things like that, the resources are out there. The resources are very good. So as far as what the look of it is, it'll probably we'll be buying those type of items and things like that. But
so
Indiana will be
the items that they made could be bought, which is a common thing for any assessment.
But we're going to be Indianaizing them and deciding if we like the format of what it looks like now. Yeah. So the format might be different, but the content will be very much the same. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll have to pass the 10th. You'll have to take the 10th grade test will be for accountability. So, but there's still going to be a graduation piece of it that you have to. I think it's with it. I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm kind of, like I said, I don't really know, but I think it's part of it but it's not going to be. We're not going to go to just a like Algebra 1 or English 10. So it'll be more like a general test.
Summative of all, you have to be a whole 9th grade. So everything in 9th grade math, everything in 9th grade English language arts. So again, and then everything in 10th grade. So
really look for that because
instead
again,
it's
one of those
area
that I don't understand as well. But I mean, it is going to be that there's still going to be an accountability test for grade 10 But when it comes to graduation, there's still going to be a graduation requirement of some kind of test. I don't know if it's the same or not. I'm thinking it is, but I'm not sure if we
Again,
even know really.
Adam in her department is the
Yeah.
guy to ask those questions to.
Yeah, and just be watching because as we get it, a lot of times we
Sorry.
don't know right now, but we will get the information out as soon as we can, and we do get it to corporation test coordinators or ECA coordinators.
There'll be a 9 and a 10.
Yeah, there'll be a 9 for accountability, 10 for accountability, but then there's still there'll be graduation requirements.
Portion, or something.
Okay, well, thank you. You can see
Yeah.
where you can contact us at. Appreciate you coming, and
Yeah.
have a good
Thanks
day.
so much.